Hi, my name is John, and the purpose of this video is to do a comparison between the Omega 8006 juicer and the Vitamix 5200 blender. When I was doing the research on these units before I purchased them, there was a lot of videos out there regarding comparisons on juicer to juicer and blenders versus blenders. Not too many on blenders versus juicers. And again, a lot of people ask the question, can I juice with the Vitamix? They know it makes fantastic smoothies, among other things, and frozen desserts. But they want to know if it can juice and how well does it juice. To juice with the Vitamix, you have to make a so-called smoothie first, and then you have to strain your smoothie to extract the juice and leave the pulp behind. A juicer, obviously, its intention is to extract pure juice from the vegetable and fruit, and it does this quite well by masticating or crunching down the produce to get the purest juice it can. With the Vitamix, you have to add water to make the smoothie, and that water does dilute it just a bit. But the comparison that we will do today is to show the difference, if much of any, in the taste and the color and texture between the two. The one thing I do want to show first is on the Vitamix, a lot of people don't purchase the Vitamix blender because they feel it won't fit under their kitchen counter or their kitchen cabinets. The Vitamix is 21 inches tall with the lid, and under most circumstances it's not going to fit under your cabinet. However, I think a lot of people don't take into account the fact that if you take the lid off, it brings the height of the unit down to 18 inches, and you may then be able to fit the unit under your cabinet. My cabinets are 17 inches, so it misses by 1 inch. But your cabinets, you may be able to fit it under there. A lot of people I actually have heard say they won't buy the unit because it won't fit. You take the lid off, it may fit. And I will demonstrate that to you in a moment. Well, as you can see, the Vitamix blender with the lid on will not fit under my particular cabinet. I have a 17-inch clearance here, and it does not fit. This is 21 inches high. If you take the lid off, you'll notice that it reduces the height considerably. I can still open my door, but it just misses fitting by about 1 inch. Obviously, you can just take the picture off if you like and store the unit this way, but together with the lid off, your particular cabinets, it may fit. You need at least 18-inch clearance for it to fit. Okay, as you can see, we have the Omega 806 juicer and the Vitamix 5200 blender. In front of each unit we have equal amounts of produce. We have Swiss chard, kale, fresh spinach, flat leaf parsley, handful of wheatgrass, 2 carrots, and an apple, half an apple. Same thing for the juicer. And what we're going to do, obviously, is compare the two as far as quality between the two juices, color, texture, things of that nature. One thing I wanted to say about the juicers, a lot of people are concerned about how hard it is to take apart and clean. Later on I'll show you cleaning of both units. Very, very easy. And as far as putting this together, taking apart, it's very simple. The catcher for the produce comes off the top. The front lid turns and comes out. This is the screen for producing the juice, dual screen. The auger for crushing down the produce. And the front unit here. And that's all there is to it. You rinse these under warm water, and I would recommend doing it right away when you're done. It's very simple to rinse off all the debris. If you go ahead and wait, it gets hard on there, then you got to do some scrubbing. As far as putting it back together, just put the unit in like this. It auger slides all the way in till it clicks. The screen fits in like that. The front part turns, and the catcher on top, and that's it. It's that easy. Okay, so we'll start juicing with the Omega first, and I like to do some of the soft greens first, and in the middle of each I put pieces of carrot in there to help push the softer produce through. The Omega does take longer to do than the Vitamix, but that's all part of it. It goes at a very slow 80 RPM, and that is to extract as much juice as possible. Centrifugal type juicers, as you probably know, spin at very high RPM, and there's some oxidation involved, and people are concerned about nutrient value with that. These type of juicers will provide you with the purest type of juice, but they are a bit on the slow side. First I'll put the kale in. I like to break it up a little bit. Use the plunger. Now kale doesn't have much juice, so you'll see that it takes a little bit of time before it starts to produce it. Now the juice is starting to come out now. As you can see, the pulp extruding from the end. And I'll put some spinach. Another couple pieces. Now I'll put a piece of carrot to help get those softer vegetables through. A piece of apple. Now again, we're not talking about quantity per se. That's the comparison. You'll see the difference in the amount of juice, but that's not really what we're trying to compare. Right now, I could use a lot more vegetables to be able to produce more juice than I have, but that is not the purpose of this particular comparison. This is the chard going in. Another piece of carrot. Now some of the flat leaf parsley. Another piece of carrot. Apple. Now what I like to do is tilt the unit forward sometimes and a little bit backwards. Gets that last bit of juice out. And as you can see, you get quite a bit of pulp. And I've made some carrot bread with this, apple bread with this. It's very, very good. And the juicer does a very, very good job of getting it through. If you want some of the more liquid type of vegetables like cucumbers and apples, you can put the pulp through a second time and extract even more juice. This is the juice. Very, very green, obviously very good for you. And you'll see that's the quantity we got from, this is a 16-ounce glass, so I got about 8 ounces on that amount of produce. And most of the produce I used was fairly dry, except for the carrots are fairly dry. The apple has some liquid to it. But it gives off a very, very pure type of juice. The little bit of foam you see is because of the apple. Without the apple, you wouldn't get much foam at all. For the Vitamix, we'll do the same thing. I'm going to put in the 1 cup of water first. This is a must. and I'll put in some of the softer vegetables. The wheatgrass. Parsley. Carrots. And the apples. It's quite loud, but it only needs to be on for about 45 seconds. Turn it on, turn it up to 10. I let that run for about 45 seconds to a minute. Now, obviously you will get much more yield because you're using the entire fruit and produce. And there, I still have some in the pitcher, and this is quite thick. I could have used even a little bit more water, but I didn't want to dilute it too much because, of course, if you dilute it too much, the difference in quality is going to be substantial. I wanted to add a cup and get it as close as possible for this comparison. Okay, so what we're doing next is we have our two juices. This is a somewhat thicker smoothie, and this is the pure juice from the Omega. This needs to be strained to extract the juice, and that's when we'll do our comparison. And for this here, what I'm going to do is, you can use a nut milk bag, or even some people use a paint strainer. I have a very, very fine French style strainer, and it does a good job of straining the pulp. So I'm just going to pour that in here. And you can probably see it starting to strain already. Now again, for the interest of speed, we're just going to help it push it through. And if I let it sit longer, I would be able to extract more juice. But again, in the interest of saving time, I'm going to help it along. Now, as you can see here, we have a very somewhat damp but clay-like pulp.